Olin, you beautiful man. You've done it. You've delivered a 10 out of 10 episode finally.
Funny bit. Hey, did you know Fox dies this episode?
Hey, did you know that the Metal Gear series predicted this episode however many years ago? Because I have never actually played the Metal Gear series, but somehow Metal Gear predicted this episode with the Fox die.
Boo. It's just gonna be the awkward silence.
That's fine. Welcome to another episode of TERA CON PRIME TIME. My name is Jeremy. I'm one of your hosts.
My name is Josh. I'm another one of your hosts.
And we have I'm going to say on the cookie scale rating, I'm giving this a 9. 9 out of 10. Mostly because it's just weird. It's weird how we had this amazing episode. We had episode 7 be another fantastic episode like episode 5 that we had earlier. It's like I just don't want to pretend that episode 6 exists at this point. Because we had this steady climb of just progressively better episodes, then this huge dip to me, and I'm over exaggerating because I'm just the type to do that, but it just feels like this huge dip in just the way that episode 6 makes me feel. It just plummets. And then again, over exaggerating, we have a 10 out of 10 episode here because we had side minor character, whatever we're going to call it. We had Fox be a sacrificial lamb for Ash's character development. We finally had a weak character killed off the show, and it was glorious in my opinion. And I know I am one of the very I'm a very minor person in the fandom, in the sense of I feel like I'm one of the only people that actually disliked Fox as a character as a whole. I've never liked him since season 2.
Really?
Yeah, it was just to me, Fox was always just the tried and true boring trope of big, strong character who looks like a killer but is secretly or not so secretly a softie and doesn't want anything to do with being a killer or, a hired gun, as it were. I'm so tired of that. I'm not saying Fox is a boring character, but I just did not care for him. I didn't even care for Ash all that much. The only good addition to the show in season 2, I thought, was Clarence.
Of course you would say Clarence.
Clarence was a true morally gray character. He acted on his own best interests for the most part. He didn't really care for other people unless it meant that it led to his monetary gain, really. I mean, he would sell people out. He's like the Final Space version of Mr. Krabs. He'd sell people out for $1, you know? Mm-hmm. Clarence was actually fun. Ash is a somewhat interesting character, I was given these powers that I don't really want, and I'm emotionally immature enough to really be in control of them. So originally in season 2, I thought that Ash was actually going to be a sacrificial lamb character. I thought that she was just, for whatever reason, she was just going to lose control of her powers and kind of just evaporate, as it were, in a big bang.
Yeah, I thought in season 2 that when we saw Harp in the trailers in her decaying body, I thought that was Ash as a result of using her powers. She would deteriorate like Lord Commander would.
Oh, sure. Before we get too far into that discussion, just very quickly, Josh, what would you rate this episode?
I would also rate it a 9, but for the reason of I would feel like this sinking pit of dread in my stomach as it was going on, because I'm like, something's gonna Something's happening in here, and it was just that sinking feeling that we keep on getting darker. Do we even trust this guy? And who is this leading Ash? Is that really the last good spark in Bolo? It's just that weird dread that I haven't really felt since the first season, where they go into Bolo's mind for the first time and Gary sees all of the other Garys and he begins to get like enveloped by this inky blackness of his guilt. So, yeah, it kind of hit me pretty hard after that. I hope they don't pull like an avocado thing where it's like, oh, don't worry, we can go back in time and save him. But it looks like it's sticking.
I hope it does, and I think it will, just because I felt like it was either going to be Ash or Fox, I guess, that was going to be a sacrificial lamb. I don't see both of them being a sacrificial lamb now, just because we've had this revelation that it's all a bit murky of how, Bolo got stabbed and now he's being poisoned by Invictus, and he would let Invictus into his mind or whatever and let Ash be deceived, because somehow when they all went into Bolo's mind, Ash was plucked away by Invictus, I guess, as it were, and Invictus pretended to be Bolo and lead her to Fox, who was the real Fox, but also possessed at the same time. So it's not like a figment of their imagination. And then
Yeah, Invictus got to wear a lot of hats this episode.
yeah, and like it was interesting now, because it just seems to be like there actually are ramifications in this episode. Like, not that people weren't getting hurt by Invictus before, but like now it really truly is like, don't mess with Invictus. They can mind freak you and get in your head and lead to some real world deaths, as it were. And Fox was the first to go, I guess, in that sense.
Yeah, and this time they didn't even need to like possess Ash. It like manipulated her using Fox as just using Fox for her memories.
Fox was a puppet this episode. That's all he was.
Exactly. There we go. I'm an idiot.
I think it's interesting that Fox was the sacrificial lamb. I didn't necessarily see that coming. Again, I just feel like I'm one of the very few people that actually does not like Fox. And to me, it's I'm going to be the edgy, humorist right now and just be like, great, Fox isn't on the show anymore. I can actually look forward to a good season now.
Many people said that about Clarence.
Well, like I said, Clarence is actually a great written character. He actually has complex motives and a decent backstory, as it were. And if episode descriptions for future episodes are anything to go off of, I think we're going to see Clarence in a future episode. So that's something exciting for me to look forward to. It is a shame. Fox was a weak character. Don't hear me wrong. Fox was a very weak character. There wasn't a lot to him. And, it's sad that his whole backstory that was just revealed in this episode before he was killed off was just, I liked music and they sawed off my arm and forced me to go to war in the Trivulian Ventrexian 1,000-year war or whatever. And the implication that he and Avocado had a dirty past or something like that. Like they had fought on the battlefield, I think, is what they are implying. Which would be interesting, like if we could have explored that more. And I get, being part of the fandom and being part of the Discord, like there was this whole discussion about like, man, wouldn't it be great if, now that we have the revelation that little Cato is royalty and he is sort of becoming friends with Fox, who's his enemy, a Trivulian, like, man, wouldn't it be great if they explored that and they were able to bring peace to the two races, species, whatever it is? Yeah, I think that would have been cool, but at the same time, it's just like, I don't know, just Fox is a weak character. And that's all I really have to say about him at this point. I don't want to keep dragging it out, but it's just, I'm not going to say anything else about Fox. I'm going to try to shut up about him.
Yeah. What else happened here?
Well, funny you mentioned that because since last week I wasn't able to see the episode live, this time I was able to see it live, and I started to take notes again. Unfortunately, my first note is just pecs.
Yes! All the GaryCato this episode.
Yeah.
Oh, that was ridiculous. That was great. I missed seeing the Gary Avocado bro dynamic. It's been a couple episodes.
That was great. And we'll get into that. I just want to point out that my first 3 lines of notes were just pecs, cookie almost eaten, and then gatekeeper.
Ah, yes, he's back.
What a simpleton I am to just be like, like Oonga Boonga, just, this thing. But yeah, it was great to see more GaryCato moments, as it were, like we open up with Quinn apologizing to Gary about not being more open about her sickness and him sort of shrugging it off and just being like, it's okay, you're good, you're alive, that's all that matters at this point. We'll have plenty of time to discuss that. And then Lil Cato's like, hey, don't freak out, Ash is back and she's different. And so that leads, Gary and Avocado meeting up in the hallway and just be like, my danger glands are rock hard, baby, or whatever. And so they just have this sort of, moment meeting up with Ash, and they're like, oh, Gary, you want a cookie? I don't know why I'm making it so weird. And also just the, what? I'll just ask her, you good? Like, what the fuck is this? What is this writing?
It's like a sitcom. she's just right there, and she's all, I can hear you. Tell it to my face.
Yeah, which is a good moment. But speaking of, we get the gatekeeper back. We get Andy Richter voicing him again, who just seems to have the perfect voice for this angry blue ball of energy. Why are you giving me so much sass? Again, these struggles of Ash being like, we need to find Fox, and everyone else just being like, not necessarily no, we don't, but like, we can find Fox once we're all safe and out of final space. Or, once we're able to regroup and figure out a way to safely do that. So it's kind of like just asking Ash to sort of pump the brakes, as it were. And that really, Ash suddenly has a bit more of a temper. She's getting progressively angrier over the course of this show. She hasn't had a lot of moments to just sort of calm down, it seems. So her getting angrier is being a lot, it's a lot more unsettling now for me. And that's why this is why I'm starting to like her more, is because, suddenly there's going to be a little more depth to her character. And, maybe she will finally just, she already got impatient enough in the previous episode to go and try and take Invictus on by herself, but who's to say she's not going to try to do that again and just try to save Fox? Oh, wait, this episode is about killing Fox. That's right.
Yeah, I remember you saying last night that you were actually genuinely getting afraid of Ash because of how dark she's been getting this episode. Like, when her eyes glow black this time, it actually feels intimidating.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I'm saying is that's why I'm slowly growing to like her, is because, maybe she does succumb to the more dark side of her emotions, as it were. Well, everyone is, and this is for everyone, everyone acts in their own best interest. She's starting to act in her own best interest, but with a lot darker tone to, as it were. And yeah, she did end up, there was a moment in the show, this episode, where she's confronting Gary, and the music is swelling and her eyes turn black, and I legitimately got chills watching the show for once, which is refreshing. That's exciting. It's exciting to finally feel something sort of a bit uneasy, as it were. Not that I never worried about the safety of the crew, as it were, but it was always sort of in the sense of there are these outside bad actors for the team squad by the names of Invictus and Lord Commander. Now we have internal conflict within the team squad, with Ash being a lot more vengeful to find her brother and going up against the de facto leader of the team squad, Gary. So it's a lot interesting to watch this episode and the rest of the season now, because she is starting to, take no shit from Gary, as it were.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting to see, like, how her patience is waning from, like, the minute Fox is taken. We need to get him now. And then just having that panic evolved into full-blown, no, we are going to get him. Like, I'm going to have to do it myself if I have to.
Well, and it's just funny how in previous episodes she was like, oh, Avocado, it's fine. You got mind freaked by Invictus. It's okay. It could have happened to anyone. And now she's the one being mind freaked. Like, you don't think she would have the, just sort of foreknowledge, as it were, or just like you've experienced or I guess that was by the Lord Commander. Regardless, like she's all this talk about, oh, don't get mind freaked by the enemy, and she gets mind freaked by the enemy.
I liked that little moment where we see Quinn pop into the cockpit with her new implants, and then basically her and Ash actually talk to each other for, like, the first time. And it's kind of weird, because you would have thought they would have talked sooner, because they've been hanging out on an asteroid for months.
Well, yes, agreed, but also it's just like, if this show is starting to delve more into continuity and consequences for actions, like season 2, we saw Nightfall get destroyed as part of the 6th key to unlocking Bolo. We watched that happen, and I'm pretty sure Ash saw that happen. She saw Nightfall
fall.
Yeah, she saw Nightfall fall and become no more. So to have this little moment is good. Don't hear me wrong. It's a good little moment, but like, how do you? I get how you could confuse the two, but it's just like you've been hanging out with Quinn all this time. I guess minus episode 6 where she was off doing her own thing while the rest of the team squad was making Quinn / Nightfall. So I guess, it's just sort of, very quick, just sort of, Nightfall? It's like, nope. She's dead. Remember, she's dead. This is me. I'm Quinn. Quinn now struggling with her identity of like, no, I'm still Quinn. I just look like this other person who was and is me, but I need to learn to accept that fact now of, yeah, people might mistake me for a future past self, as it were. Whatever you would call Nightfall.
Yeah. Days of future past Quinn.
But otherwise, yeah. So we have that little moment. We have Gatekeeper get in contact with the crew. They take him inside Bolo's mind now. And once again, we're getting weird with it. I've said it before on a previous episode. I just love exploring insanity and the mind, because the mind is such a beautiful thing, but it can get so dark and warped. The healthiest person can have just the darkest thoughts, or just have their brain sort of unravel from the inside out and go insane. Like
Jeremy.
Yes.
What happens if you experiment with hallucinogenic stars?
See, that was a good moment too. Like, just Gatekeeper being like, I told him not to eat those hallucinogenic stars. Oh wait, I gave them to him. Like, so there's that moment, which is really funny. I love that moment because, it's either like it's just like, okay, so Bolo is an all-powerful Titan who could do anything. He can find them himself. Why does he need the gatekeeper to bring him hallucinogenic stars? Or why would the gatekeeper bring him stars to, trip out on them, as it were? And like the same thing with, going to the Chamber of Doubt. It's just like, oh gosh, I don't know his password. Like, why is the gatekeeper a literal gatekeeper of passwords for Bolo? Like, it's just, I don't know what was going on with that. And I guess it's just because I don't understand it. It's sort of like non sequiturs and left field humor, as it were. That's, it's something that I'm not expecting, just makes it all the more funny to me.
What?
I'm just, I'm just reading over my notes. So I have, they touch danger glands as a note.
Yeah, I didn't realize they'd be in, like, the neck.
Yeah, whatever. That's probably the safest place for them to be in order to show Gary touching avocado.
Gary, the danger glands are in my...
Well, okay, Josh.
Please cut that out.
We'll see. We'll see how I feel about that one. How you kind of said earlier, just avocado, or no, not avocado, Gary rubbing avocado's chest, just being like, I'm peeking into the future, as it were. It's like, what the was this? I mean, it was fan service to start. That was 100% fan service, but my other notes were just, woof, that's a scary Ash. Woof, angry Gary. Angry Ash is scary Ash. And woof, this is some fucked up shit. But then, yeah, we kind of close off the episode with this one-on-one between Ash and Bolo. Ash asking for Fox's body back. Bolo just being like, as you wish. And Fox's lifeless body floating in space. Which confirms that it was Fox. And this wasn't just, like an apparition or anything like that.
Puppeted.
Yeah, well, yeah, still being a puppet, but now it's a empty puppet. Nobody's controlling that puppet anymore. What a moment to leave the episode on. Ash cradling her dead brother's body in space and crying. Like, that's a powerful moment. I'm not going to deny that.
Yeah, like Olin said, he was like the closest family member she ever had who actually stuck with her this long.
But yeah, I think just sort of overall, this was a great episode. Despite how dark it could get. Really fantastic storytelling, in my opinion, besides Fox's backstory, which, I don't care for, but whatever. But otherwise, great episode. It's weird how, like I said, we would start this trend of going more episodic and slowing things down all the way up to episode 5, and then episode 6, we just have this jumble of an episode that really just detracted, and then right back into episode 7, just, we're at one point in time, as it were, and we're only going to explore this one point in time, which was great. I just want the rest of the remaining episodes that we have to be like that, and I think we're going to have a really strong season. Do you have any final thoughts?
Not really. I mean, we kind of been like sharing thoughts anyway. Can't wait for what happens next, but it looks like we might actually linger on this for a bit, which is good, because it'll let that character's death sink in, even though it was Fox. But I do like that. It looks like this next episode might be slowing it down a little bit with, I think we saw them carrying his casket. But where was Ash? I didn't see Ash. I don't know what she's going to do. Probably sulk for a bit.
Yeah, I didn't see her either. Anyways, though, thank you all for listening to another episode of TERA CON Prime Time. Once again, my name was Jeremy.
My name is Josh.
And we'll see you for Season 3, Episode 8 of Final Space. What was it called again, Josh?
Forgiveness. Just one word.
Forgiveness? Well, I won't forgive Olin if he brings Fox back. Ayo! Rest in peace, motherfucker.